welcome back to Living Through the Shift podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany J. Harris, and I'm so excited you're here. And I'm really excited. I know I say that all the time, but I am really excited for this next guest because I brought on someone who I've become friends with and gotten to know, and we're developing a friendship, but we've just really shared this experience because we're both caregivers. So I've brought on Tracey Washington. Tracey Washington is a worker for corporate America. She's just doing her regular day job, but also she's a caregiver, and also she opened a nonprofit, Sam's Caregivers, which is a nonprofit which is in honor of your mom, Samela Washington. And she's still here with us, but I want you to talk about this, and I want her to talk about this because Sam's Caregivers, it helps families really navigate those resources, especially because it's a really challenging thing to do, especially just navigating being a caregiver, especially in the earlier stages of it, but also just support and community. And I wanted you to talk more about it because when I went to your page, you listed an About Us page, and usually it talks about like the founder and, why you started it. And it really just talks about like a little bit about the organization, but not much about you. So just tell me about that and tell me about Sam's Caregivers. And thank you for being here.
And thank you for inviting me. Just a little bit about myself. You said my name is Tracey Washington. I'm a Nashvilleian. I've born and raised here. I've been here all my life. I went to college here. I went to Tennessee State University and got my bachelor's degree in mass communications and my master's degree in elementary education. So I currently work for the state of Tennessee, the Treasury Department. I've been there for 25 years, so it's been a long time, close to retirement.
Yeah.
I started Sam's Caregiver Alliance Group, which is a nonprofit, in 2023. July 2023 is when we got our 501c3 nonprofit status. But I started it because it inspired me to do it because of my own journey. I'm a caregiver for my mother who has dementia. And I realized how hard it is. And I had other friends and sorority sisters that were going through the same thing. So I just got encouragement from others and from my own experience to start this group. And I couldn't find any support group meetings for African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
We always talking about we want a safe environment for you to come. And sometimes just African Americans seem to be safe with other African Americans. Not to be prejudiced or anything like that. We just, we feel safe. So I could not find any caregiver support group meetings for African Americans. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own. So I started my own, and it has been wonderful. One of the main things that we do, of course, first of all, we provide that safe environment for people, African, and we welcome anybody, not just African Americans. I don't care what your ethnic group is. We'll welcome you, okay? So, but it's a safe environment for them to share their stories, to share maybe the depression that they're going through, to share the resources that they've gotten that I didn't know about. That's another thing. We love on each other, just show each other support, right? And through my journey, I have learned about a lot of resources that are out there that doesn't always make it to the African American community. So I said, okay, this is another thing that I want this group to do. I want to make sure that this group provides resources to other caregivers that wouldn't normally know about it. And then you have to think about caregivers doesn't have time to do all that research, right? To find all these resources and all of that. We're busy taking care of our loved one.
Exactly.
So any way that this organization can make it easier for caregivers in their journey, that's what we're here for.
No, I love that. And especially when you were talking about it is a difference, I feel like that, because I know when I went to my first support group meeting, it was white women in their 70s, and they were great. Like I've become really good friends with a lot of them, but it was that idea of, you want to feel comfortable to enter. It's kind of like going to the gym. Like when you go to the gym the first time, you're like, "Hey, will someone go with me?" And they're like, "I don't really want to go." But it feels better, when you see someone who kind of has like a shared experience. And also, I feel like a lot of Black women, and Black men, we do have different experiences from other white caregivers. Like we could talk about socioeconomic status and all that. But yeah, before we really delve into that, let's talk about your mom because, she was the catalyst for this. So how long were you taking care of her before you decided to take the delve and open a nonprofit?
Well, my mother was diagnosed in 2018. I actually started seeing signs in 2017. It was small, subtle signs. And then we went on a Hawaii trip. Okay. We did a lot of mother daughter stuff together. So trips was one of them. So we went to Hawaii and I just noticed the way that she was eating pizza. That's just how subtle the signs were. When you see them doing things that is out of their norm, you know, that's a sign. Okay. Even I don't care how small it is, that's a sign. Just little things that I saw while we were on our trip. And it made me realize, okay, it's time for you to get diagnosed. And that's very important. Getting diagnosed by the proper doctor, not by your regular physician, right? Not by your
Yeah.
PCP, but you need to be diagnosed by a neurologist.
Right.
See, that was in May of 2018 is when I started really noticing the signs. And finally, I took her to the doctor in November of 2018. And he diagnosed her almost immediately.
Wow, okay.
Of course, they asked them a series of questions for about 10 minutes. And he was like, she has dementia.
So once you get that diagnosis, did he give you anything? Like he just said, sorry, and kind of just shuffled you out of the room? Was that
Well, you could kind of, I mean, because what can you do? At that point, we're just trying to process this.
right?
We're trying to process the diagnosis. I don't know if right then, if we would have even taken medication, I'm not sure what we would have done. This is new to us. Of course, I've known other people that have dementia. My little brother, my dad's child, because I'm my mom's only child. Okay. But my dad has other children, but his grandmother, my little brother's grandmother, had dementia. So I've seen it, but hadn't really experienced it. So we just kind of, and you know what? She's at that age. It's funny how when the older generation, they don't like to talk about things.
No, definitely
And
not.
that is one thing that they don't like to talk about. Okay. Death in illnesses like that. Okay. It scares them. So we didn't really talk about it a whole lot. And but actually, I eventually got her to get on this medicine. I don't want to name any medicines because I don't, you know what I'm saying? I
No,
don't,
I get it.
yeah, promote any particular medicine because everybody's different, right? And I did get her on it, but I tell you, I took her off of it. You do have to get on it early on,
Mhm.
okay? But some medicines will progress the diagnosis.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful what type of medicines your loved one is on. I started taking care of her really in 2017, 2018. I started the organization in 2023.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, and I agree with the proper diagnosis because it does. If you have like frontal temporal dementia, you might start taking a medication and it actually exacerbates the symptoms because those people they're having hallucinations and things like that, and you're treating them like they have Alzheimer's disease, and that's completely different. So you take that jump and you say, okay, I'm going to open this up and open up a nonprofit. What was your future before that? Because I'm sure you didn't envision doing this,
You know what?
in your 40s and
Right
50s.
before my mother was diagnosed, I didn't know what my purpose was.
Okay.
I prayed to God to give me my purpose because I felt like I was just existing. I'm going to work every day. Everybody knew my routine. I had the same routine. I had nothing different going on in my life. I had other activities I could do, like with my sorority and stuff like that. But still, I didn't feel like I had a purpose. God will give you your purpose through your pain.
Mm.
And this was definitely through my pain. So I praise God for what I'm doing right now because He gave me this purpose. I prayed for this purpose. I didn't know it was going to be this purpose.
No, I
I
love that.
tell you, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be this, but
Mhm.
I thank God for it.
No,
Because I've
I
been
love it.
able to help a lot of people. And and we're here and we're going to keep going as long as we can.
No, I love that you said that because I feel like that is I feel like the whole idea of like I'm in my 30s. Trace not connected because I don't think Tracy knew that I was in my 30s. But it is, like, you're young and you're like, "What am I supposed to be doing?" And, I mean, I don't know if this is truly my I think I'm kinda in, like, this moment of, like, "What is going on, God?" But I definitely know this idea of we envision ourselves with our future and with our parents and, "Oh, we're gonna get married," or, "We're gonna just be like the rich aunties," and our parents are gonna just be there with us and
You
take
know,
care of us and
I
stuff.
thought I was gonna have that life of, because I have no children, I've never been married. I just knew that I was gonna be married, children, house with a white picket
Mhm.
fence, just this life, and it was totally not that life. I have not had that life at all. So, it was until in my 50s. I'm 55 years old,
You
okay?
look great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. My mother, give credit to my mother. So, great genes. It wasn't until my 50s that God gave me my purpose. So
Mhm.
you don't want to give up on life, no matter how old you are. You just pray. You just pray to God and allow God to guide you through this life, this
Yeah.
this journey of life.
I think this episode is really about like community and doing it by yourself because I feel like we've all dealt with the judgment of others. It's always someone, well, I heard, and it's like, well, Sandra, nobody cares what you have to say. And well, I was reading this, and it's like, you know what? Well, I was living this, so I
Yeah,
think I know what I'm talking
yeah.
about. And I think that's what this is really about, and that's why I really wanted you to come on because I am a single caregiver and I am my mom's primary caregiver. And I realized that community is like really pivotal, but also it's the idea of the tribe costs money now. It's the idea of what is it, well, you have to raise your child up and, the tribe just surrounds them. And then I think of, the little red hen and, like, who will help me gather this wheat? And then you're kind of like, you're out here by yourself. So I think the question is, how do you do it by yourself?
Well, I tell you, when my journey started, I had friends that have gone through the journey. They were older. They're
Okay.
older than me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that you need to get a support group, in your own support group, not just my support group, but your own internal, like your everyday friends that you've known, or somebody that can give you support, somebody that doesn't mind helping out every once in a while. Now, I'm gonna tell you, caregivers, we feel guilty about asking people for help, right? I
Yeah.
know I do. So that's another thing that we have to try to get out of, is not asking. Because I still do that. I'm like, I still, although my mother is in a nursing facility right now, I'm out there often, right?
Mhm.
I would love for someone to go out there sometime and sit with my mother
Yeah.
and take her to the park or something like that while I'm working, right? When I go visit her, I'm washing clothes. I've washed her clothes, so I'm putting up clothes. I'm getting more clothes. I give her baths. I'll clean her room, change her bed sheets. I don't really get a true chance to just spend time with my mother.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay? If you have to put your loved one in a nursing facility, make sure you're there. And make
Right.
sure you're willing to work, because they're not going to always do the things that you want them to do. But I tell you, her being there does help me out a lot. Okay. And, people try to I would never put my family member in a nursing facility, but dementia is a different type of beast. Okay.
Mhm.
And when you're trying to deal with that beast and your loved one at the same time by yourself, it can be very difficult. Okay. And if your health decides to go down, your health physically, emotionally, mentally goes down, who's going to take care of them?
Oh, yeah.
So when you put that loved one in a nursing facility, you're not only thinking about them, you're thinking about yourself. My neighbor, which is one of my support systems, okay, she's part of my support system. She saw on my face the exhaustion that I was experiencing and said, Tracy, you've got to do something. You can't continue to do this by yourself. You've got to remain healthy for you and for her. So I literally made the decision to put her in a nursing facility. Let me tell you, I cried 30 days before and 30 days after, literally,
Yeah.
because that was not in my intent. I sold my house to move in with her to take care of her for the
Mhm.
rest of her life. But that mean old dementia, it beat me. I hate to say it. It beat me. Because she was very angry.
Mhm.
Um, and she was just doing a lot of things that was causing me to break down in all ways, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Okay. So I'm like, I can't continue to this and take care of her also. She didn't even realize what she was doing, you know. But now that she's in the facility, we have a great relationship. Okay. So you do have to set boundaries for yourself too. You're going to find too where people are just not going to always be able to help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people may not want to help you
That's right.
because that mean on dementia can be very mean.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
some people don't know how to take it.
Yeah,
The disease, the person with the disease, they
right,
don't know how to take it. They don't understand it. All they see is that she's mean.
right.
She's mean to me. She curses at me. They don't understand the disease.
Mhm.
So it is more difficult, I think, to find help for people to sit with your loved one if they have dementia as opposed to any other
Yeah,
disease.
I agree, and I wanted to and thank you for saying that because I feel like there is so much guilt, especially with compartmentalizing your loved one's condition, this idea of you're a caregiver, you're a daughter, you're an employee, or all these other things. But especially when you have a relationship with your parents and they have dementia, you have to compartmentalize and say like, I need to be her daughter again, or her
That's right.
son. I need to be a child again because it makes it so hard to have a relationship. I know you were talking about the community aspect. So because your friends had went through it, do you feel like more people were ample to help because they had experienced it and they were older? Or do you feel like it was this idea of like you stopped talking to people, you lost friends? Because I know for me, I've definitely noticed a diminishing of friends and I don't like this version of myself. I'm not saying I look forward to my 40s, but I mean, God willing, I'm still here. Like I'll probably be just off in the woods, like by myself because it is a really isolating experience. So do you feel like you experienced that or do you feel like community was just everywhere?
Well, my support system was there. I tell you, and it's because they understood what I was going through. So, coming to these caregiver support group meetings that we have, you're reaching out and you're talking to other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, right? So maybe they can offer you some advice on what steps to do, what type of therapy to do, or what type of, maybe certain medicines work for their family, may work for yours. But when you come together in the room with the people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, that right there is a lot. That right there is your safe space where you can feel comfortable with talking to other caregivers. Like I said, if I didn't have that support system prior to me starting this organization, I don't know if I would have started the organization. That support system is very important. So make sure that you get a very close support system.
And that's true because I feel like it's good to have your regular friends and it's good to also have your caregiver friends because they get it. Like they understand and they just get it. You don't spend like 2 hours going into this store because your regular friend's like, what? That's crazy. Like, let me get popcorn. You said you put your mom in a home. You're working when you were doing all of this. So, what was that like, especially for work? Like, did you have to go to your job? Did you take FMLA? Did you know what to do?
No, now, before I put her in a nursing facility, she was living with me. Okay. I work from home. So my mother, she would just go through these spells where she would just come into my office and just be mean. Just, I want you out. I mean, they can say some of the most mean, cruel things when you have given up your life, you feel like, and to take care of them. And some of the things that comes out is so hurtful because you love this person so much and you're doing what you can to take care of them. So her coming into my office consistently all through the day, I wasn't getting any work done. I had to fix meals for her throughout the day. I had to, give her baths and everything like that. I just couldn't do all of that in work. Also, it was just I couldn't do it. I have to work. Although she does get her, her retirement check and everything, but it takes two incomes nowadays, right? So
It does.
so it just became very impossible for me to really get any work done and have my mother there also.
So then did you decide to so you decided to move her out?
I did, and let me just make a point. I did have the neighbor. I was paying her to come and sit with her and
Mhm.
do things. But my mother um, was, she's they go through bouts of denial.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
meaning that they'll deny nothing is wrong with me. I don't have dementia. Nothing is
Right.
wrong with me. I don't need help. I don't need this person to come in and help me. So I was going through that.
Yeah.
So, because people say, well, why don't you just hire somebody to come in and do the work? Yeah, that we could do that. But then that mean old dementia step on in.
Yeah. We need a break.
And, that mean old dementia wouldn't want anybody else in their house.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so you have to consider this. If you have not gone through it, you really don't understand what we're going through. You can look from the outside in, but you'll never understand what it's really like. But to be honest, that her putting my mother in a nursing facility was the best thing possible for us. And like you said, it allowed me to be her daughter again,
Mhm.
not just a caregiver, but now I'm her daughter. And although I am still doing a lot of stuff for her,
Right.
but still, we go out to eat. I take her to the park, and we still do things together. She loves church.
Yeah.
She loves church, so we do things together now without all that anger involved.
Yeah, I think that is really important that you said that because you're getting your relationship back. And I think I want to really delve more into that because we talk a lot about, judgment. And of course, everyone's like, I would never put my mom. And then, of course, parents put that guilt on your kids years before and they say, don't put me in a home, but they don't put anything in place so that you don't have to put them in a home. But then also, keeping your loved one at home is really expensive and not just expensive in regards to financially, but also energy wise. Just if it becomes a safety issue, if they start sundowning more, like cleaning, bathing them more, hygiene, the things that you don't realize that you do, it becomes really extensive. So let's talk about taking care of yourself because how do you take care of yourself as a single person? Let's talk about the caregiver contingency plan. Let's pivot to that. What's your caregiver contingency plan? How do you take care of yourself?
Well, you know what? It's so funny because I always preach to people. I say preach,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
to other caregivers. Listen, you have to take care of yourself. But listen, I've been on the go
Right.
nonstop. But one of the things that I think is important is that we set boundaries. Okay.
Mhm.
You have to know that you can't do everything, even for your loved one. You have to set a time like, look, I'm not going to be able to take my mother to the park today because I need to go get a massage.
Right.
Treat yourself,
Yeah.
treat yourself. I'm actually going on a retreat.
Ooh, where?
It's the Healing Trust Foundation is having a retreat
Okay.
in October. So, and it's just like mind, body, and soul type retreat. And you
I
just
love
relax
it.
because right now I'm feeling um, burnt out.
Yeah.
Between working full time, operating a 501c3 nonprofit organization, taking care of my mother, and president of the usher board at church.
Yeah.
It has been a journey, let me tell you. So I'm like, I need to stop, and I just
Yeah.
need to take care of myself, and focus. And there's some things that I've turned down. You know, I'm like, no, I'm going to rest today. And if anybody asks me to go somewhere, go to lunch, go to dinner, do something, I'm going to say no. Only
Mhm.
because some things you just have to say no to because
Yeah.
you need rest,
Yeah.
right? So I'm looking forward to this retreat that's coming up in October
Yeah.
just to get some rest and see new ways of winding down and relaxing. I think we may be doing a little yoga, and I don't know how my body's going to do because I have a bad back too. So that downward, what is it, downward
Downward dog.
dog? I don't know if that's going to work, but
I'm a
but
yo-
we gonna try it anyway.
I'm sorry. No, I'm a yoga teacher, and I
Oh,
feel
are
and
you?
yeah, I know. I know, I'm like the stiffest yoga teacher. I'm like, "Everyone just lay there. It's gonna be great." No, well, because there's this thing, it's like the yamas and niyamas, the principles and practices of yoga, and ahimsa is one of them, and it's like non-violence, and I think people usually mean like that means slapping people, but also it means like not being nice to yourself too. So I love that you talk about that because I do feel like my body, like I think I took on so much, and my body was like, "The you will." So did you and your mom ever have these questions about
Oh, that's
finances,
right.
assets, any conversations about money or transferring? Because, everyone keeps talking about this is going to be the biggest wealth transfer ever. But, you have to transfer wealth in a certain way. You can't just do a handshake. So, how did that go?
Yes, we did
Okay.
actually. She did have a will
Okay.
before she got dementia. She did have a will, but she in POAs. We had
Okay.
already done POAs. However, I convinced her to put my name on her bank account. This is after she was diagnosed. It took a little bit, but it's
Okay.
very important that somebody's name that you trust is on your bank account, because if you become incapacitated or not able to make decisions, that person needs to be able to get to your account so they can pay your bills, and not to take your money and spend your money, but to pay your bills. Okay. And
Mm.
it's very difficult if you don't have a POA on file with the bank, or you don't have someone named as the assignee or beneficiary, really the assignee on their account. Oh man, it is. I've heard some nightmares.
Yes.
I have a friend, I'm not going to say any names, but just to kind of give you, what it can really be like. She had a brother that became incapacitated. And I think, he wasn't able to make any decisions. So the brothers and sisters had to step in and pay his bills because no one had access to his money. When he became well and better, they took him down to the bank, and he was still not really mobile. So I don't know who helped him get in the car, but they couldn't get him out of the car when he got to the bank. When he got to the bank, the people said, well, he can't come in, so he can't sign the documents. They wouldn't even take the documents outside and let him sign the documents. Well, needless to say, a family member got a hold of the money and took the money and left, and the siblings never got their money back. So it's very
Yeah.
important to make sure that you have the right people on your bank accounts that you trust, that can get access easily to your money, and that's even before death and after death. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I will piggyback off that and say, in regards to putting your name on people's accounts, because I know that. I mean, we're not married, but even I learned that even if you were married, you want to put your loved one on your parents' account, but then if you get divorced and they find out that you're on your parents' account, and in a certain way, like if you're a joint owner, they're gonna think that it's half, your money, and it's not. So there's certain ways, and I know that banks, they're doing different things. They're doing like the caregiver. I've seen certain like caregiver linked accounts on certain banks now where they start to list certain things, or even like POD, like payable upon death.
And that's very
And
important.
that's important.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
POD will it gets you the money after death. You're able to access the account, but it also keeps you out of probate court.
exactly. And nobody
So
wants to do that.
yes,
No.
that's right. And another thing that keeps you out of probate court is trust.
Trust, yes.
I have an revocable
Trust,
trust.
right.
You have to be able to fund the trust. So you
Right.
you know fund the trust with your bank accounts or with your house, if you have a house, or
Mhm.
whatever your assets are. But that allows whoever your beneficiaries are on your trust to access your assets without going through probate court. And probate court can get expensive for your loved ones, and can be timely.
Yeah, I've definitely learned that because I feel like a will is great, but it's also just kind of like an instruction. It's just kind of like, well, just do this, but a trust really just solidifies it for you. It makes it a lot easier. And I do want to ask this question because I know I want to talk more, especially about just like being Black women, but these are things that Black people, we just don't talk about. We don't talk about finances. Everything's a secret. If I do remember any conversations that I've had with any family members about funerals, it's generally, don't invite this person to the funeral and I want to look really good. I think that's the gist of it. And I'm not trying to deduce, or generalize this, but I'm just saying this is something, and I'm not even excited about my own mortality. Like who I am right now, I'm kind of like, like whatever. But I feel like this isn't a conversation. Do you feel like you became this like money mindset person where you kind of knew about money? Because I feel like that's something that we don't know. Or do you feel like that was something that just you learned over time, or were your
Well, I
parents
think
different?
it was really just, I am money conscious. I've always been money conscious. I've always been a budgeter. But it's just things that I've learned over time and realized how important it was. When you see so many people, especially people in the African American community that don't have life insurance, something simple as life insurance. And I mean, it happened in my family. It happened several times in my family where now you're taking a collection plate, to get money from everybody in the family to pay for the funeral when you could have paid for a policy that cost you $20 a month.
Yeah, the original GoFundMe. But
The
yeah,
younger you
right.
are, the cheaper the policy, right?
True. Yeah.
That's the reason why too I've been having these estate planning workshops at my caregiver support group meetings, where we were the last workshop we were notarizing POAs on the spot for free.
I love that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were trying to encourage people to get their legal affairs in order. And at my next meeting on October 4th, it's going to be at the East Branch Library, not at the Bordeaux. They're
Oh,
doing
okay.
some type of special election.
Okay.
So I had to change it to the East, which is right up the street here in East Nashville on Gallatin Road. October 4th from 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock, we're going to have a second part of the estate planning workshop. And I'm going to have an attorney there, and she's going to be talking about the legalities of all these documents and how important it is to have your legal affairs in order. And I'm also going to have Mr. Noel. He's my insurance agent.
Okay.
So you can get life insurance. You can sign up to get life
Yeah. Oh
insurance.
my gosh. Okay. No, this is great. I mean, I got my life insurance. I'm a life insurance agent, but I don't really practice, but just for education. But I think it's really important because it's so expensive. It costs so much money. And there's other things you can do
Well,
besides
the
that.
important thing is get it while you're young, because
Exactly.
the younger
Yeah,
you are, the cheaper it is. Now I'm 55 years old. My
right.
insurance policy is only $58 a month. I think
That's
that's
good.
pretty good, and it's like an investment policy. It's a universal policy,
Okay.
so it acts as an investment policy. Although also, so he will be able to explain all of that. I'm not an insurance agent. I don't want to go into all the details. I do understand it, but I prefer someone that is an expert to talk to the people about this insurance policy and how this insurance policy can create generational wealth.
No, thank you for saying that. And we will definitely post about it
Hmm.
because nobody talks about this stuff. It's a strange thing. So, a lot of your work really is advocacy too. So, you've been to the Capitol, you've met with legislators. Can you tell us a little bit about your
Well,
experience?
actually, that was the first time back in, I think it was March or April, we went. The Tennessee Disability Coalition was advocating for the Family Freedom for Family Caregiver Act. I went up to advocate for that, and that was passed. And also, I think it's the Better Place. It's called a Better Place. Was advocating for Tennessee paid leave for caregivers for state employees.
Right.
So that was passed. Now that is for end of life. So
Unfortunately. Yeah. That's helpful.
yeah, but they are still advocating for not just end of life, for caregivers to be able to get that 6 week of leave, just to do daily activities with the loved one, or when the loved one's sick in the hospital, not at necessarily at end of life. So we need to be able to get that care or that leave for those times also, not just end of life. So there's still plenty of work to be done, and we're still going to be out there advocating. So that was actually my
Mhm.
first time. That was
Okay.
actually my first time, but I loved it. I went up on the Capitol and just got to be able to go into all those sessions. I'm telling you, the sessions are very quick.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's like, it's like your lobbyist gets up and talks about the bill that you want to
Yep.
pass. They say yay and nay, and you out.
Yeah. You're like,
it's,
okay,
it's
great.
like,
All in favor.
okay,
Oh,
on to the next.
yeah.
But it's still interesting to see the process, and I still think that people should get involved in that process so you can see what laws, because Tennessee is ranked 51st
I know.
in caregiver support.
I know.
I'm like, wait a minute, we're 51st.
Why did
I
I
thought it was
move?
50 states, but
Well,
anyway, 51st.
Hawaii is before us. The
Yeah, but
islands are before us. Oh,
but 51st. Now that's pretty low. We're like
it's
dead last in caregiver
yeah.
support, and that's really it's really sad.
I
It's really
question.
sad. It's really sad that they don't see the importance
No,
of what we do.
no, they don't.
And the fact that we're unpaid. Some people think that, even maybe some legislators think, well, you're the family member, you're going to take care of them anyway.
Yeah,
But it still does not take away the how expensive it
right.
is, the
Yeah.
financial strain it can be.
Or even the health strain of it, because I have
Yes.
talked with a lot of people who run a lot of programs, and they've said the same thing, that the state kind of feels like, well, if you're doing it, then we really don't have to pay you. And there are some, I know there's another program that just came out that it pays family members to come from outside of the home to come and take care of the family. They will reimburse you for that, but they will not pay the primary caregiver. And I really, this is the part that I really want to talk about, because we don't have kids. I don't have kids. I'm at this point where I'm like, if I have a kid, I'm going to have a geriatric pregnancy at this point. But I think, can we talk about the idea that we really need people to understand that we have to reframe this, because the amount of money that I have given to coworkers who have had kids, and like being a caregiver, no one has said like, "Hey, let's take up some gift cards for, Tracy or Tiffany or anybody," because we can't conceptualize caregiving. Even though it's not the same thing, you're not a parent, it's not exciting, but the idea of the support elements are still the same. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, when you're talking about gift cards, it's so funny. We just had my organization just had our board member meeting, and we were talking about, getting sponsorships and partnerships to help us, help these caregivers. And even if it's giving a gift card to Cheesecake Factory
Right.
to take you and your loved one for dinner, that'll save you money. It's something as simple as that. It will really, help a caregiver. Like you said, it's very expensive. You need the help. We need the help, and people just don't understand. And unpaid caregivers is it's like we spend $30 billion or something like that, or
Mhm.
$30 million in taking care of a loved one of our own
Right.
funds. So if we're spending that money, just think of these states, how much money they're saving.
Yeah, it's about like 7,000 per it's and that's like a very rough
Right.
estimate, like way more than that, and that's just money, not even just time. And I guess let's talk about this as women, because has this impacted, you feel like, your career trajectory as a woman, or do you think it's impacted your
Well,
job?
it has not impacted my job because my mother's in a nursing facility. Now,
Right.
however, if she was still living with me,
Right.
it would impact my job because I work from home,
Right.
right? So I would definitely have to have someone to come in and help take care of her. And so I would have to use her retirement check to do that. But my money would have to be used to take care of other things like food and other things, and, the household bills and just her medication. All As a matter of fact, when you put your loved one in a nursing facility, and it's a financial strain on me right
Mhm.
now, because you still have to pay for their medication. This does not include
No.
the monthly rate. The monthly rates for a single room right now are $7,000 a month.
'Cause
Okay, so
yeah,
you still have to pay for medication,
right.
diapers, all the personal items like toothpaste, toothbrush, all those personal items. And if you want to get the hair done, you got to pay for that. I mean, you're not just paying that rate. They don't pay for everything. Now, you can add, they do have a rate too. You add a rate, it's like $100 and something a month if you want them to get the diapers and all of that, but you're still paying for that. So it's a very expensive thing. Her check does not pay for everything, for all of that. It pays for a lot, but I still have to come out of pocket and pay for that, a lot of that, the extra expenses, and what her check does not pay for as far as the rate. Okay.
Yeah, and your mom, she's in assisted living, right?
She's in memory
Okay,
care.
wow, in
And
memory
memory
care.
care is more expensive than assisted living
Yeah.
because they need more assistance.
I know in some memory cares, a lot of it's, like, included, like, some of the medications are included. Because I know for us, when my mom was in assisted living, the levels of care were like crazy. Like you go in there like, oh, it's going to be an additional $600 a month. I'm like, for what? You know,
And that's
but
the thing you have to think about. It's
right.
additional. So
It's
really it's not
additional.
included.
No, it's
It's
not.
not included in the
It's a
rate.
base rate.
It's a you
Just
have a base rate
right.
and then you have all these additionals.
Yeah, what do they call them? Per diems, per diems, and
Right.
a la cartes, all the carts. So what we're talking about right now is we're talking about levels of care. So when you initially enter into an assisted living facility, if you are interested in going into an assisted living facility, they'll present you with generally just, you know, a residential rate, and then levels of care will be included. So that could be medication management, that could be hygiene help, that could be just telling them to get up and, you know, go take a shower, which that's prompting. And that should not really cost extra, but sometimes people they can't get up in the mornings because they have dementia and their sleep schedule's off, but that costs extra. So, in addition to you're paying for medication, and I will say that when we were in there, I think the medication had got up to like $400. And then when I started doing medication at home, it was like 60. And I just thought like, what, like, these are the same things. What is she paying for? But it's a corporation. It's greedy. So I hope you all are listening to this
And you
and you
didn't
get your stuff together.
and also with that, the nursing facilities go up every year.
They do
Okay, and they
5% or something.
yeah,
Yeah, 5 to 10.
listen, at one time they were going up $700 a month
Oh my God.
per month for just for that 1 year.
I could
So the
see that.
very next year, it's probably going to go up another.
Right.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is very expensive, and that right there is a stressor.
Right. Yeah.
For caregivers,
Right. Yeah.
that's a big thing that as far as financial stress. And then you have to think about too that there's a big difference. People say, "Oh, they're going to take my house." Well, it really just depends. If you're going into an assisted living where it's private pay, they don't care about your house, okay? Because you're paying out of pocket.
Right.
Private pay does not take Medicare, Medicaid, and all of that, okay?
Right.
Some of the facilities do. Most of them don't. The private pays, most of them don't.
Don't take choices.
Yeah, they don't take choices. Okay. Now, the only time they consider taking your property is if you're on Medicaid, and Medicaid is assisting with paying your bills. Okay, you go into a facility, you can't afford this $5,000-$6,000 a month. The family cannot afford this $5,000-$6,000 a month. But if you're on choices, they will pay for that, right? But they want to be reimbursed. So if you have any property in your name, yeah, they're going to look to maybe get that property. And some people think, well, okay, well, we're going to take this property out of my mama name and we're going to put it in my name. But they
Right.
have like a 3 to 5 year look back.
Right, they do. We have when I was working for TenCare,
Yeah.
they had a 5-year look back period. So
Right.
yeah,
So you
they
have to
do.
think about that too. But like I said again, if you're doing private pay, it does not matter. They're not
Right.
looking at you. They could care less if you have property or not because you're paying them out of pocket.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this in the episode before about the 5-year look back and getting your assets in order. So especially for, young people right now, they're listening because I get it. They're not too enthused about this. Everyone's like, get your money right. But then, save it for kids, but everybody doesn't want kids. But the one thing that we are going to be taking care of is our parents. And I think our legislators kind of need to understand that and put some type of incentives there to help us with this. What would you tell someone who's, in their 20s, 30s, even 40s? They're trying to get their finances together. What would you tell them to just prepare for themselves, but also include their parents in that equation because their parents probably are not going to discuss this. So what would you say to them?
I would say get your legal affairs in order.
Okay. Okay.
I would say come to my caregiver support
Yes,
group
yes.
meetings. Come to the estate planning workshop that I'm having on October 4th from
Yeah.
11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the East Branch Library. That is going to be the first thing that I say. But yes, you do need to sit down with your family members. Talk about your assets. Don't be afraid to talk about your assets. You at some point you're gonna have to set up a will. If you're over 21, you need a POA. Okay,
Yeah.
you think you're young. you still need a POA. Oh, my parents, they my God. No, you still, if you're married, you still
You do.
need a
Yeah.
POA. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and a POA is a power of attorney. Some people don't
Yes.
know what POA is,
Right.
and that's okay. But that's a power of attorney. So make sure you get your power of attorneys in order, get your wills in order. Talk to your parents about their assets. Go ahead and talk about who's the beneficiary of what, so it won't be a surprise when you pass away, because it can, if you don't have these things in order, it can cause a lot of family friction.
Right.
Right. It causes a lot of family divide, and we don't want that in the African American community or any community
No,
at that
definitely
point,
not.
right? So if you have those things in place before then, and you talk about this before then, you won't have to worry about it later.
And I love that because I feel that a lot of people are so scared about it. And I know you're saying have that conversation. So thankfully your parents were your mom and your dad, sorry, were very receptive to having that conversation for someone whose parents are not. Or if someone's listening right now and they, their kid gives it to them and they're saying, I can't talk to him. What would you tell their parent then? Because
Well,
yeah.
now the one thing my mother was receptive to everything but putting my name on her account.
Okay.
She wasn't as receptive about that. So I just had to kind of talk to her and let her know how important it is. I said, well, Mom, listen, if you get sick, I'm not able to pay your bills. You may lose your house if I'm not able, because I don't know how long you're going to be sick. You see?
Wink, wink. Yeah.
I know that house is important to her.
Right.
So I put that in the conversation, you see?
Yeah.
But I mean, and it could be true. If you're, incapacitated for a year,
Who knows?
I don't know what's going to happen to your house. I can't afford to pay your house note.
Right.
So you just have to kind of hone in on what's important to them and and let them know and show them that if these things are not in place, those important things, you may lose.
Yeah, and that is important because I think so many people, and if you're listening, we care about you. Like this is why we're having this conversation. I think this is why I started this podcast was just to have this conversation because I think so many people are afraid of it. Even me, it's not really I mean, I don't really have kids and I don't have anybody I was thinking about that today. I was like, if something happened to me, like, who's gonna because I feel like my family, they're like, we'll just figure it out. But even then, that idea of if something doesn't happen to you, you do so much stuff for your mom that people would say, like, I have no idea how she's doing it. And just someone having to come in and step in and do that. So I think that's what we want people to know is that we care.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
just want to touch on that also.
Yeah.
Like I said, my mother has no other children but me. So if I leave, I have to put things in place. If she's still
Right.
living and I'm gone, but I do have two brothers. Like I said, they're my dad's children, but I'm very close to them. They are my beneficiaries because I have no
Okay.
children. Okay.
Right.
But I purchased, and I just bought it from Amazon, an end of life book. It's a
Yeah.
journal. So I put in this journal everything that they need to know, all of my account information, everything that they need to know, how I want my funeral to be,
Mhm.
how mother should be taken care of. As far as the trust, this is where the trust is.
Mhm.
Everything is in that one place. I have detailed instruction in this journal, and it tells them what exactly they have to do. So they don't have to be wondering and shifting through papers and through the file cabinet. And it's right there. All they have to do is grab this bucket
Yep.
and this little and go and handle the business, because I have to think about my mother. I want to make sure as easy as possible for them to get what they need so they can take care of my mother.
And I will say that I am working on my stuff, but I have like a whole system I have like 22 pages just for like pre-funeral arrangements, just because it's so detailed. You don't think about that stuff. But also I mean, I have ADHD. I can't find my keys half the time. So I don't have time for someone to be sorting through papers just in general. But I think this is just all about like getting your affairs in order, but also just that is just a different part of life, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
it's just getting things in order because we do so much stuff for them. And I wanted to ask, I think, about just being you're back to being, your caregiver. You're also your mom's daughter. How do you navigate grief? Because it's like you're so on, like you're so on, you're doing all this stuff, you're a caregiver. But also there's this idea of we are going to lose them one day, and that's not exciting. So how do you navigate that?
Grief does not just come at death.
Right.
Grief can come, I grieve all the time. I grieve the person that my mother used to be. So I'm not able to go on these trips anymore. We're not able to do certain things. And when we go out to eat, but there's certain places that I can't take her, like at night. We don't go out to dinner because she's sundowning after a
Right.
certain time. So we do lunch. We can't stay out as long. I used to try to take her to a concert or something, you know, 3, 4 hours is too long for her. You see, church, she loved church. We're still kind of that old traditional church, so we may be in church 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, Jesus. We haven't reduced it yet.
So listen, so we leave at a certain time
Right.
because I know that she can't, it's just things that she cannot do anymore. Conversations I can't have with her anymore because she doesn't understand. When I'm going through things, I miss that person. I grieve that person. How I deal with it? Well, some days I'm at home and I just cry. I let it out. I don't hold it in. And grief just comes all of a sudden sometimes. You could be thinking about her. I could be thinking about her and thinking about some of that Hawaii, some of those Hawaii trips, or, trips that we used to go to, some TSU football games we used to go to. I think about those things and I cry.
Yeah.
I let it out. I grieve. I'm grieving. I grieve that person that she used to be. Okay. Now, I think that therapy is good. Actually,
Yeah.
our church, I go to New Season Church, 1900 South Hamilton Road.
Let's put it in there.
So, but we have a grief ministry.
Okay.
And it's every second Saturday. I think it's at 10 o'clock. So that's a great place to go. So, talk to your friends. When you're going through things, call them and say, hey, I just need to talk. I'm grieving right now. That's okay. And it's okay to grieve. And just know that it's okay to grieve.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that because I feel like we're in this moment of like ambiguous grief where I do sometimes want to go to a grief like program, and then they're like, she's still here. And I'm like, yeah, she's still here. I'm just really sad about it. But how is that, like, going to grief programs, and how have they been receptive to people coming who their loved one is still there, but they're not the same person?
Oh, they're
That
very
person's
receptive.
gone. Okay.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Very receptive. Because actually, our grief ministry, we don't just talk about people at death, grieving at death. Maybe you're going through a relationship, a breakup.
Okay.
And so you're grieving, you're sad, there's different forms of grief. It's not just at death. So we talk about all those things and share our stories about, and we cry and we release, and it's okay to do that in front of others. We say grief ministry. Yeah, it's for people that, have lost loved ones, but it's for people that have lost relationships,
Yeah.
that are losing their parents or their loved ones.
How has FMLA been for you?
FMLA, it's been good. I haven't had to use it as much as I thought I was. I initially signed up for it because I didn't know how many doctor's appointments and things that I was going to be, have to go through with mother. But mother, the sickest part of her is the dementia.
Right.
Physically, she's doing pretty good. Actually, she's probably doing better than me.
Yeah, no,
It's
same.
just mainly her mental state, that so I have not had to use it, but my job has been, they approved it almost immediately. I haven't had any major kickback
Okay.
on that. So I think, FM, if you need to use it, I think it's a good thing. It does, FMLA, it secures your job. It
Yeah.
doesn't, you still have to use your leave, your sick leave or annual leave if you have to have it. I mean, if you have it, you have to have it to use it, really.
Right.
But you still have to use that. But and see, that was another thing that's the reason why they were trying to pass
Right.
that law, and they did pass it, but it's for end of life. See, when you use FMLA, you're using your annual leave or sick leave.
Yeah.
But through this new law that they just passed, you won't be using your annual
It's
leave.
like maternity leave.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's separate leave,
Yeah.
right?
And we were talking about FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, which, you have to generally have worked there for a year in most
Mhm.
places, and small businesses don't really kind of have stuff like that. You usually need to have like over 500 employees or something like
Yeah.
that. But if your job offers that, it's really helpful because, but we're just talking about FMLA in general because some people are afraid of, job stability is the thing. The job market is kind of wacky right now. So, of course, everyone wants to keep their job and stay employed. So, if you're in a job and you're taking care of your parents and you haven't gotten FMLA yet and you're taking them to appointments, you should definitely get that so you can secure your job. But we're also saying that it definitely needs an improvement and an overhaul for sure because I mean job hopping is great because you can leave your job, go to another job, make more money, but then you leave FMLA on the table, so then you leave that security. So then it kind of makes it difficult. What I will say is, so I love that you started your nonprofit. Thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. Tracy and I met. We did the comedy show. Rhonda and I connected us. Well, yeah, Rhonda connected us, and then you came to the comedy show, and it was really great, and it was really helpful, and I think just being in community is really important for other caregivers. Do you feel like this role of being a caregiver has sometimes encapsulated your life? How do you come back to Tracy?
Mm, that is a good question. I think my organization keeps me grounded also. I set boundaries. I make time for myself. What brings me joy is helping others. There's no information about me on the organization website because it's not about me, you know. My first thought is caregivers and how can I help them? What can we do to help them? This journey is a difficult journey. It affects us differently, right? It's a financial strain, it's an emotional strain, it's a physical strain, and like you said, you lose friends along the way. So this organization is to help with you maintaining you.
Yeah.
We're focused around, of course, we want to make sure that the loved one is taken care of, but if the caregiver is not, the loved one is not going to be taken care of properly, right? So we want to focus, and that's part of our mission. If you read our mission statement, is to focus on the mental and physical wellness of the caregiver. The loved ones will be taken care of efficiently. That's the reason why this organization was started is to focus on the caregiver and to make sure the caregiver, because we feel alone. There's days I feel so, although I have friends and although I have a support system, I still feel alone because I'm not married. I have nobody in the house with me that I can just lean on or somebody just to hug me,
Mhm.
to give me a kiss on the forehead, or just say, I love you. I don't have that.
Right.
Although I have God,
Right. Yeah, he's
okay?
great. He's great.
He's good. But that physical touch
Right.
sometimes
Mhm.
is even better.
Yeah.
I don't have that. So the loneliness that I feel from that even makes me sad. And not just me, but other caregivers too. So whatever we can do to support the caregivers, to make the caregivers know that we're out here. We're out here to support you, to love on you, to care for you, to pray for you, whatever it takes to make sure that um, that your journey is not just a hardship journey, but an exciting journey for you and your loved one.
I always hear a lot of people who say, "Well, I'm married and my spouse doesn't do anything for me." Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do
Or
anything.
I have siblings and they don't do anything.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah, and
I
I
hear a
mean,
lot of that.
yeah, and
It's
I
always one.
it's always one, but
It's
you
always one that does all the work.
yeah, and you're not alone and you can't do it all by yourself
That's right.
and that's what we're here just, you need a community. And
Yes.
I think that's what it is. You have to round around people who really get it and they understand it, and if they
And they
don't, they don't.
trust and they
Yeah,
and they have they need a community that they trust. And that's the reason why I said the caregiver, my organization is focused on the African American community.
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
because some African Americans just don't trust any other ethnic group but African
right.
Americans. So that's the reason why I focused. And then, like I said, that the information about resources are not typically pushed out to the African American community.
Mhm.
Like we like. We want to make sure that they understand. And like I said, my caregiver support group meetings are for anybody. I don't care what group you're in, what ethnic group you are. it's for anybody. But I did want to reach the African and disenfranchised communities. I saw a research, I think it was the Alzheimer's Association did a research. And of course, in the African American community, we have the highest number of caregivers. Really, we do. But
Mhm.
we don't use respite.
Right.
Why do you think we don't use respite?
Some of us don't know.
We just don't know. And it's just simple as that.
Yeah.
We don't know about these respite programs
Mhm.
that are out here. Okay.
Yeah.
So we take on that responsibility on our own. And we just think there's no help for me.
Yeah.
And that's a sad way of thinking. And I don't want anybody to think there is help out there.
Yeah.
You just need to know about it and where to get it.
Yeah, and I think and it makes me think about, just mental health in general. There are certain things that when they say like suicide is preventable or they say like suicide is 100% preventable and with help, but there's this idea of is everyone selfish or can we talk about things or things like that? And I just think that life is just really hard in general, especially for caregivers. Like our mental health, if your mental health was hard before, then you become a caregiver, it becomes really difficult. And then being, a black woman, you're like, I gotta be the strong black
Strong.
woman. I can't cry in meetings. That doesn't work for me. So, it's what's wrong with her? Oh, I had an allergy. Okay, good. Because if you were crying, it's not gonna work for you. Sorry.
Right.
But just this idea of you can't do it all by yourself. And I think we need to talk about that more. But no, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this.
Absolutely.
I think the last question I'll say is what gives you joy? Like, how do you keep going?
Prayer.
Okay.
That's what gives me joy. And just like I said, I love to help people,
Yeah.
to know that this organization is helping as many people as it is. I've had so many people to tell me, hey, I am so glad that you started this. I didn't know where to turn, I didn't know what to do. Just the support is helping me. Just knowing about these resources, that there is bringing me joy. My purpose is
Mhm.
bringing me joy.
I love that. Okay. No. Well, I love that you started off with, you out of your pain came your purpose, and your purpose gives you joy. And I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much, Tracy, for coming on. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.